Three things before I begin. First, I have discovered that a tool you may end up needing to properly patch Getter Love into English is not included with the patch itself. OZDuel did share it with me when I brought it up, and I have backed it up to Google Drive. I've also gotten his permission to host the patch itself on rumhack.ing and rumhacks.net, where it is packaged with the tool. I have combined this part with part of an earlier video into a short to specify the best emulator and settings with which to run the game. Please see the description for some links. Next, this only occurred to me recently to share, but my brunette hack did get quite a bit of discussion on Twitter back when I uploaded that. Do watch out for one pic past this GIF here, and another post past this image of Starbound. That said, some replies are labeled probable spam, but are in fact worth viewing. Viewing most other replies is an obvious matter of checking this blank space or show replies, but there are some that are further embedded, like here. And finally, I will mention this again at the end, but some people I've heard from on People Per Hour were able, with viewer permission, to diagnose my HD problem, my thumbnail problem, and another I've discovered with related video cards in shorts to be platform end problems I cannot do anything personally about. I have taken to the forum to gather how widespread this problem is in order to increase the likelihood of action by the feedback team, and would urge anyone watching to check their own videos to date if they can leave a comment there before I linked back to the threads. As usual, links in the description. Now, during the creation of my previous main video, I had recreated my current Earthbound hack mainly to demonstrate a few things. The hack itself was originally just an idea to try out on a separate PC, and naturally, I do not make a point to record every last thing I do on a computer, especially given how much space that would end up taking up just for the slight chance something calls for anything. For my last video, I was originally going to include a few one-off tips on how to go on about something like what I created, before bringing up the 4 grown women I left blonde. That proved redundant when I found myself onto something as I recorded such trial and error as the hack involved originally. Let me mention that that segment was my least favorite to look forward to putting together, and I had saved it for last in order not to rush through it. For context, this picture of Kagami Hiragi, originally from episode 9 of Lucky Star, is what I represent myself with on Discord. To start off, I first looked into YY-CHR in hopes of brunifying Anna in Earthbound Zero. This correspondence made it clear that that would not be possible due to NES GPU limitations. That would explain why skin, blonde hair, some clothes, and many different surfaces are all a shared beige to begin with the game's solid black battle background accounting for why enemies look slightly more fleshed out. Nor do I intend to play Mother Encore, despite also featuring more food from what I gather. To me, Earthbound Zero will always be an NES game. That's when I moved right on to Earthbound. This I originally did on my regular computer that I do not play games or create videos on, and I didn't bother to record this the first time around. All I wanted at the time was to try something out and make the otherwise vanilla Earthbound slightly more interesting for myself that I had already played a million times even before its cracks began to show, since I was going to have to record that version for a comparison anyway. Due to some stuff from months earlier, I had already suspended business with people for some changes. For good measure, this was before Phoenix Bound offered 2 particular changes for free, that I then decided to appreciate by getting to understand his work instead of being like, okay, thanks, see ya. So, the first thing I did here was open up GIMP, open up a screenshot of a Little Snow Fairy Sugar's opening sequence, and sample 2 shades of brown from Saga to override the yellow and orange. Somehow, closing and reopening the project there caused an extra color to get added to the palette each time. That's when someone recommended graphic scale to me. With the original brown in place, I found myself actually hot to get started on my upstairs computer that night before going to bed. I didn't upload it yet because I did need to make sure that nothing unexpected would happen at such points as Pooh's meditation or the party's mechanization. This playthrough lasted from March last year through 2 multi-month hiatuses until last November, when quitting my job freed me up to focus on finishing the game before putting my main video together. For most of this time up until the end game, I alternated between the game itself and planning each part out for finesse on a special type of walkthrough that this channel is going to specialize in. I first took a break just before heading to Grapefruit Falls in order to upload what I had already written early in 2022, which actually covered up through Moonside, up to GameFAQs' HTML editor to streamline stuff I'd been originally publishing to Google Docs. It still took a while after that to resume the game, and my gaming style that the walkthrough itself is all about is what accounts for my other long pause at Deep Darkness, when I generated 14 from the get-go on random.org, decided not to buy anything, and found myself not so hyped up as usual for my next round of purchases, deciding then to focus for a bit on other things in life. At some point, I had randomly discovered a pic of someone from what turned out to be My Stepmom's Daughter Is My Ex, where I discovered another brunette girl, and also started over with the honor student at Magic High School on a Mother's Day trip to and from my brother's house. Around the same time, having seen 2 different girls with a lighter shade than Saga's to begin with, which shouldn't surprise me given Mai's as another of the original 4, I also noticed Paula's to almost blend in with the gold mine. I initially considered a simple light-dark dichotomy, but then remembered Kurumi's unique shade resembling caramel from Magical Girl Spec Ops Asuka, and wound up creating a total of 12 shades based on various different characters, half of which initially came out green, gray, or peach before I adjusted the HSVs. You'll see it happen again soon. Even after finishing the playthrough, I still wanted to have the hack and the related video up at the same time to cross-link. The video took several weeks, and that's where my reenactment comes in. This is a false start, and while I would normally cut redundancies for proper instructions or an otherwise smooth viewing experience overall, I have left this mostly intact to demonstrate the trial and error involved here as I get a feel back for what I did before. Also to show you how long stuff normally takes to process in case you decide to try something similar yourself. In some cases, I was actually writing stuff down physically for reference. For those unfamiliar, this process takes 25 seconds. So, here I go, and there were a few characters I actually had to double check for upon reaching the end. It might actually be more practical to show you when I regathered them more fluidly. Palette 5 here is where all 4 playable characters normally go, and Palette 6 is where NPCs normally belong. That is where I'm putting Ness, Jeff, and Pooh, in order to put Paula and all those other girls I compiled back into Palette 5 for their new separate palette. Here I go now to open Paula up in GIMP after initially attempting to open everyone at the same time. I was originally going to show you what happens to her palette in that program and how, before deciding just to show you how to proceed with a project like this. Coming up here, though, is how I managed to change Paula's hair to a dull green instead of my intended brown. Almost forgot one thing here. That's your color picker. Applied the paint bucket there. Here was an attempt to bring out the intended brown. Somehow, this did not work in reverse, as you'll see. And this is where I went on to compare the HTML codes. Taking a moment now to mark down all 12 pairs of HTML codes on an index card. Here goes another false start as I switch to graphic scale. Cutting some redundant errors and downtime. Here is where I started marking down the individual RGBs and HSVs on a piece of scrap paper. hue, saturation, and brightness. It should come as no surprise how often I would forget to switch back to RGB. Control Z and Y only wound up affecting the brightness here. Just making extra sure here so that I don't wind up with any surprises when I upload it. As you can see here, this lady's gold necklace uses the same color as her hair. Here's the NPC I drew upon for its new color, although I initially used the wrong color when I actually got around to recoloring it. Similarly, why is Tracy's nose teal of all colors? Here is the most crucial thing that I was going to point out before. Counterintuitive as this may seem, you're actually supposed to load an empty pallet into a bad pallet when everything is ready. Here they are, all blonde again. I realized later I had missed the sunbather. I'll show you in advance where she is after I'm done compiling everyone else. Here she is, number 104. This begins my successful attempt, albeit without the sunbather actually in place yet. And of course, I did have to make an extra step to account for this lady's necklace and Tracy's nose, just like before. Had to start the lines over on this one after entering the values for the base color. Ditto for Ness's mother. Here I go to select the palette in the correct order this time, although the sunbather is still missing. Now that she's in place, I need to make room for my backups for after I brunify her. Her turn, finally. Well, here they are, all brown from the get-go, as you'll see. It's the same process for the transition between shades. Thanks for watching, and even if you don't have the time or energy to go through all your old videos for anything to help compile on my threads, you can still help me towards the YouTube Partnership Program, which will grant me access to live support simply by liking, subscribing, and watching more of my content. I would also be grateful for any support through PayPal, Patreon, or Buy Me a Coffee. Please see the description for all links related to this video.